This review for On Her Majesty's Secret Service has spoilers. It is week 6 of the James Bond weekly movie marathon. For the 6th film of the franchise, I watched On Her Majesty's Secret Service. On Her Majesty's Secret Service was originally released back in 1969. My rating for On Her Majesty's Secret Service is a 3 out of 5, and here's why. With On Her Majesty's Secret Service, there is a new actor playing the role of James Bond, and that actor is George Lazenby. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is directed by Peter Hunt, and it also stars Diana Rigg and Telly Savalas. In the prologue of the movie, they really teased the mysterious new actor playing Bond. They didn't reveal the entirety of George Lazenby's body and face until the later scene of the prologue. In that prologue, he was investigating a girl. It seemed like this girl was about to commit suicide in the ocean, but before she could do that, Bond would come and save her. And then mysteriously, a bunch of henchmen came out and attacked Bond. That's where we get the full reveal of George Lazenby as Bond. At the end of the prologue leading into the intro credits sequence, George Lazenby as Bond says a little quip in honor of Sean Connery, where he said, "This didn't happen to the other fellow," and then it leads into the intro credit sequence. This intro credit sequence was unique because it didn't have a real title song. It was just an orchestrated fanfare, with the title credit sequence being a flashback of the past 5 movies, scrolling and going throughout the screen. In On Her Majesty's Secret Service, James Bond is continuing to investigate the whereabouts of the leader of Spectre, Ernst Stavro Blofeld. During his investigation, he would run into that same lady that he saved going into the ocean, playing Baccarat, which would eventually lead Bond to her father, Draco. Draco being this leader of an organized crime syndicate. With Draco and Bond meeting, Draco would pose a proposition for Bond to marry his daughter. That if Tracy were in a relationship with Bond, that Bond would be able to make her happy. And all he wants is to see his daughter happy. If James Bond did that, Draco would help with the investigation on finding the whereabouts of Blofeld. When James Bond returned back to London to meet with M, the investigation into finding Blofeld and the rest of Spectre was called Operation Bedlam, and M would eventually take Bond off the case because they were having no results with James Bond. In anger, Bond would resign, and M would approve of that resignation. Although being quite coy, M actually gave James Bond a leave of absence. That way, Bond would be able to work with Draco in investigating Blofeld. And then we would see Tracy and Bond court each other, fall in love with each other in this montage. With the song We Have All the Time in the World, sung by Louis Armstrong. We Have All the Time in the World would be the theme song of this movie, even though it didn't play in the beginning during the intro credit sequence. After that, Draco and James would investigate a lawyer who works with Spectre. With that, they notice that Blofeld is using the name Beauchamp as an alias, and we see Beauchamp or Blofeld in the papers of this attorney, showing that he wants to find out his genealogy through a professor of genealogy. James Bond would pose himself as this genealogy professor and go to this place called the Piz Gloria on top of a mountain in Switzerland. While posing as this professor of genealogy, he would encounter a group of women headed by Irma Bunt who are there to cure their allergies. Yet it is also a way for Blofeld and the whole Spectre organization to brainwash these women, and what we would find out later is that they are sleeper cells meant to attack a great population of people with this virus. This virus wouldn't kill people, but it would kill livestock and crops, thus creating this havoc in the world. Blofeld would reveal that the name of this group of ladies would be the Angels of Death. It's also noted that Blofeld changed his appearance, so with James Bond undercover as a professor would go in and meet with Blofeld, but he would look differently, albeit you know that Blofeld would recognize Bond. Bond wouldn't really recognize him as Blofeld. This movie does drag out a bit. I know they wanted to focus on the investigation on the Piz Gloria, but I felt it a little bit dull in some parts. This movie does pale in comparison to the previous You Only Live Twice, but it is still a great story and a well-necessary story arc to the James Bond story. The action sequences were amazing, with a ski chase, this car chase, that one of the parts of the car chase where they end up on a rallycross course. With the Bond girl Tracy, she has to be one of my favorite Bond girls in the entire James Bond franchise. She's different from all the other girls, as she is a very headstrong woman. She didn't take James Bond's advances lightly in the beginning. The finale with the battle on the Piz Gloria was really cool between Draco's men and Spectre. Nearing the end of that battle on the Piz Gloria, we see Bond chase Blofeld, and they both end up on these bobsleds. And it was a bobsled chase at the end, which was very interesting. In the end of the movie, we see Bond marrying Tracy. The final scene of On Her Majesty's Secret Service, we would see James Bond and Tracy pull over to Aston Martin on the side of the road. He would pull over to grab one of the flowers to give to Tracy since she didn't receive any flowers. And then a car comes by. And then we see Irma Bunt, and we see Blofeld, who's still alive. Irma would fire at the car. With that, she would strike Tracy on the head, thus killing Tracy. And one of the most memorable yet sad moments of James Bond movie history is Tracy dead in his arms, and him saying, "There's no hurry, you see. We have all the time in the world." Entirely, On Her Majesty's Secret Service is not one of my favorite Bond films, but I still feel it is a key moment in James Bond's story lore. The fact that marrying is a curse in a sense of a way for James Bond. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is definitely a must-watch. A lot of that story was placed into the rebooted canon of the James Bond films with Daniel Craig. I feel that they implemented that story to the whole James Bond with Vesper Lynd, and we see that story play through Casino Royale to Spectre. I feel that we might see a similar story adapted from the story of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I feel that the fate of Madeline Swan is not good. That's my prediction. With that, that is my review of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. For next week, well, actually starting tomorrow, is week 7 of the James Bond weekly movie marathon. That 7th film in the franchise is Diamonds Are Forever. Make sure to subscribe to the Spellgo YouTube channel for more of my content, and to continue following this weekly movie marathon of the James Bond films as I review them as they come along. Thank you guys for watching.